brothers and sisters. My name is Mandy Hankins. I'm president of Branch 256, Mid-Michigan. And this is my counterpart, Matt Tanner, president of Branch 122, Lansing, Michigan. And we're putting together some informational videos for you guys to help inform everybody about the newly signed MOUs and the Family First COVID Response Act.
All right, so before we get started on that, from both of us, we'd like to wish you and your family health and happiness. Hopefully you're being able to deal with this stressful time. We just want to make sure and remind everybody about EAP, 1-800 EAP for you. That's EAP, the number 4 YOU. So please, if it's you or your family member, the service is available to you. Thanks for doing what you do. You're all heroes, and we definitely appreciate all your hard work.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. The first thing we want to touch base with is filling out a 3971 slip when you do want to take some leave. If you are at home and if you've called in to take some of your leave, you can go on Google and search Postal Form 3971, and you can print it off at home. So as we go through these MOUs, one of our biggest concerns is going to be that you properly filled out your PS Form 3971 or your leave slip. You can take a screenshot or scan it into your home computer, and when you send it to your supervisor, I want you to confirm with them that they did receive your request for leave.
So after you did submit your 3971, either a text or sending it as an email, confirm that with your supervisor. Then we need you to go online on the light blue website, and then instead of looking at your check stub or whatever, there's a virtual time card button. You're going to click on that, and we're going to make sure that the boss puts you in for the correct leave. Okay, so when you go on, if you're not understanding or if it's the wrong leave that they're inputting you for, please contact your steward or a branch supervisor or branch officer to clear that up for you. All right. So we're gonna continue on with some more videos. Thanks for your attention. Hopefully you find them helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey everybody. In this video we would like to talk about memorandums M1910 and 1911. M1910 speaks on the temporary expanded sick leave for dependent care during COVID-19. For the 60-day duration, so this memorandum is good until May 17th, 2020, is for sick leave dependent care that can be used by an employee for unexpected child care needs as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So specifically, employees may use sick leave dependent care in the event they must care for a child as a result for daycare closures, school pre-K through 12 closures, or the unavailability of a child's primary caregiver as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. This MOU does not change the 80-hour limit for sick leave that may be used for dependent care in any leave year. So if you used any type of dependent care this year, then you have to subtract that from this 80-hour limit balance. Approval for sick leave for dependent care will continue to be subject to normal procedures for leave approval. So if you have any questions or any issues on this, please give your branch officers or your stewards a call and let us know what's going on in your offices.
All right, on to 1911. MOU 1911 has to deal with temporarily additional paid leave for the CCAs, so this would apply to just the CCAs. This MOU allows the CCAs to use up to 80 hours of paid leave for all of the 5 bullet points listed on the MOU. The first one is that the employee themselves has contracted the COVID virus, or they've been directly exposed to somebody with the virus. The second bullet point would be to any employee that has visited any of the countries listed by the CDC as a level 3. The third bullet point would be anybody that returned, a CCA that returned from a cruise and somebody on your cruise was identified as having the COVID virus. And then if you yourself have any symptoms, you'd be able to use it. And the last bullet point would be any kind of child care related issues you would have. Okay, so one thing that's important about 1911 is this leave balance will not appear on your check. So this 80 hours is basically use it or lose it, and this expires on May 17th of 2020. All right, so these MOUs are in addition to the Family First Act, which we will be discussing on another video, But just to let you know, you can use this for your first 2 weeks, and then go, if you're using the FMLA, you would be able to use this for your 2 weeks, and then go to the Family First FMLA option to be able to use that for the remaining up to 12 weeks, which we will discuss that on a later videos, as I said. So on this, the $39.71, you should check the other box and write LC19 in the space provided. Okay, and again, remember to check your online as on your virtual time clock, making sure that they input the hours correctly. If you have any issues, contact your steward or a branch officer. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, in this video we're going to be talking about M 1913 through 1915, and the M 1913 speaks on the 701 rule, right? So the 701 rule has two different caveats to it. One, you have to complete your whole assignment, and two, there can't be any additional work within your same wage level. So depending on office and depending on what's going on, whether we can invoke the 701 rule, that will come into play.
Remember, this does require supervision's approval, and if it's less than 7 hours in one click, you will have to use some other type of leave or LWOP for that day. So make sure you're there for 7:01, a little bit over 7 hours.
The M 1914 speaks on liberal changes of schedule and leave. So during these trying times, 3189, a request for temporary schedule for change for personal convenience as a result of childcare issues caused by daycare closures, school closures, or the unavailability of a child's primary caregiver as a result of COVID-19 pandemic is available to you. Managers and supervisors also should allow liberal sick leave usage for employees who are sick, and liberal annual leave or leave without pay usage to the extent operational feasible during this time period. Any leave taken for COVID-19 reasons between February 29th and May 17th should not be cited in any discipline for failing to maintain an assigned schedule.
All right, and that brings us to M 1915. 1915 is titled Temporary Workplace Changes to Promote Social Distancing. There are a few things that are covered in this MOU. Number one being to avoid shifting CCAs from building to other buildings. We need to, with the sick calls and type situations, obviously we still have to make an attempt to deliver the mail. And so there are, it says to the extent possible. Well, obviously with situations like that, we have to be open to still being able to move these employees to different buildings. It also, when we're dealing with CCAs going from building to building, we are trying to require that they bring their own vehicle, scanner, and avoid even going into that building by us wheeling the mail out to them. So we're trying to avoid it as much as possible, to the extent possible, but obviously with the massive amounts of leave that are going on right now, we are having to make some adjustments. This also deals with the social distancing as far as the 6 feet rule. There are, most offices have X's on the floor. If you are punching in, we need to try to adhere to those. Don't take it personally if somebody asks you to spread out as far as 6 feet. So it's real easy for us to forget about this. We are all responsible to help clean up after ourselves. Make sure you do so. As far as punching the time clock, there are options here available for us to stagger start times. We are trying to avoid that by either making sure we use the 5-minute rule, meaning punching in a little bit earlier, a little bit after. We also are in Lansing using 1260s to try to avoid using the time clock altogether. So Mandy is talking with her bosses over in Flint about this, so that may become an option to you. In your office, if you take an office break and a street break, it's encouraged to move that office break and have 2 street breaks at this time. Service talks, maybe we do in smaller groups, or even read over the intercom, or if we have to, let's even print them out, give people time to just read them. All right, so that's those 3 MOUs. We're going to move on to the next one. Thank you.
Stay safe, brothers and sisters. All right, guys. In this video, we would like to talk about the M 1916 and the employee rights for the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. The M 1916 is a new memorandum that allows temporary carrier assistance They're calling them COVID-19 CCAs to be hired to take over a little bit of the load for the offices that need it. The hourly rate for these employees will be the same as for CCAs. During the course of the service week, the regular CCAs that are already hired into the system will get their 40 hours first prior to these CCAs working. When an opportunity exists for overtime, full-time employees on the appropriate overtime desired list will be selected to perform such work prior to assigning the temporary carrier assistants to work overtime in the same work location where the employees work. And all temporary carrier assistants will be working in their employing facility for the duration of this agreement. This agreement is good or expires on May 27th, 2020.
Okay, so the next thing we're gonna talk about is the expanded, the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. Okay, so this act actually has two different ways that it can be used. The first way is that all employees, yes, all regular and any career and CCAs are able to request an additional 80 hours for leave. Okay, the qualifying reasons for this leave are if you are under a federal, state, or local quarantine, which the state of Michigan is, so we all are. We have been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine, or you're experiencing any symptoms related to COVID-19. So them are the first three. All right, the second three are if you're caring for somebody else that has been ordered to quarantine, if you're caring for a child who is displaced or have no child care, they can't, the daycare's closed, school's obviously out, so for that reason you can also use it. And then the sixth reason is if you are experiencing any other similar condition specified by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Okay, so this went into effect on April the 1st and it expires on January 1st, 2021. So this is for all federal employees, not only postal, but anybody that works for the federal government. This is in addition to the MOUs that we've already spoke about. This first option allows us all to use 80 hours of leave. So like we spoke earlier about 1911 for the CCAs, that's 80 hours for that MOU, and then this would allow them to get an additional 80 hours. All right, so the important part of this law, it's not an agreement, it's a law. The important part is that for reasons 1, 2, and 3, everybody would be paid at 100% of their daily hourly rate. For the reasons 4, 5, and 6, you would be paid at the 2/3 rate for that leave request, all right? So just roughly doing the math, if you're a CCA, you would roughly make $97 a day. And if you're a carrier making the max rate of pay, you would roughly make $178 per day. Okay, so a couple things are kicking around at the national level that they are not cured. One of the things that they are is that this may not be a taxable income. So that pay rate may not be subject to taking taxes out. Our attorneys at the national level are trying to figure this out. Obviously, we will spread that information out to you. If you'd like to figure out what your pay rate is, just simply take what you make per hour and times that by 8 hours, and then multiply that number by 0.67. That would be what your rate of pay would be for per day. All right, and so remember, it's 80 hours. It is when you're submitting for this type of leave for that 80 hours, you're gonna, on your 3971, you're gonna check other and write in the box FFCRA, and you should also write that what reason you are requesting on the qualifying reasons 1 through 6, because this again will affect what pay rate you're on. All right, so the second option that this law is, there is a FMLA option. This option is strictly related to family care, taking care of those little ones because they have nobody to watch them. So you would be able to take up to an additional 10 weeks FMLA for those kids. So remember 1911. So under this FMLA, first I need to say the first 2 weeks are at the expense of one of your other leaves, one of the other leaves you have. So 1911 as a CCA would make sense. If you're going to use this for childcare, then you would use 1911 first for those 2 weeks, and that would be paid at 100%. And then the remaining weeks you would be able to for weeks 3 through 12, you'd be able to get paid 67% of your pay rate for that remaining time. If you don't have the first 2 weeks for 1911, you would also, both regulars and CCAs can use the 80 hours that we've been given in this act and or in this law. So you could request that you use those hours from this law for the first 2 weeks, and then use the remaining 10 weeks for FMLA. Obviously, under that situation, it's going to be one of the, I think it's number 5 as far as the act. So you would be paying 2/3. You would only get paid 2/3 of your salary. Okay, regulars, you could use MOU 1910. 1910, it is your own leave, but that would allow you to get paid for the 100% as opposed to the 2/3. One thing to keep in mind about this, it's an FMLA situation, so it only applies to one to a household. So if you have 2 mail carriers in your house, if you have 1 mail carrier and 1 other federal office employee, there only one of you would be able to use this 12 weeks for family care. It is not allowed for you guys to both double dip on that. If you already have a FMLA condition, again, we only get 12 weeks per calendar year for FMLA. So if you use all of your FMLA, either you've already used some prior to this, or you plan on possibly having to use some later in the year, you need to keep that in mind, because once you hit your 12 weeks, that's it. You are done with FMLA for that year. But again, if you're having any questions about what leave you're putting in for, you need to contact us, because some of these MOUs expire prior to, for example, this act. So you're going to want to use stuff before they expire, so you leave other options available to you in case this continues till later in the year. So again, hopefully this all helped you guys out. If you have any questions, by all means, give us a call your stewards. We have to continue to check our virtual time clock. Yes, we could definitely file a grievance, but that could take 3-4 months with what's going on by the time we get to that to get you paid. So we want to keep that money flowing into you so you can take care of your families. So please, if you go on your virtual time clock, you see errors, give us a call. Let us try to help that out. Anything you want to add?
Nope, just that this expires December 31st of 2020.
All right. Yep. First of the year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody stay safe. Bye.